3rd, 2022 meeting to order. Will the Parks and Rec Director please call roll?
I default to Shelby to go ahead and do that.
Dutile.
Present.
Scudder.
Present.
Hacker.
Present.
Oberts. Delker. Via.
Present.
Vadla.
Present.
That's everyone then.
Is Annette there?
Excuse me?
I'm here.
Yeah, Net's here.
Annette
Everybody's
present?
here, but
I'm here, I'm
you need
here.
Becky and Jim.
Becky and Jim. Oh, okay. But are they online?
Becky is online, Jim is not.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear that. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to go to item 2, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Connie made a motion. Penny? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Vote?
Are there any objections to passing the agenda as approved?
No objections are being registered.
Thank you. That'll take me to approval of the minutes of September 1st, 2022, regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the September?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of September 1, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Are there any objections?
No
Hearing
objections
none,
are being
the minutes
raised.
are approved. Thank you. That brings us to item 4, scheduled public comments and presentation. And we have one scheduled presentation this evening from Mr. Kyle Cornelius. He's going to give us a presentation on the Soldotna Fieldhouse construction schedule presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Cornelius, for being here this evening. I know all the work you've put into this.
Thank you, Penny. Okay, thank you, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle Cornelis. I'm a little loud, sorry about that. I'm the Public Works Director at the City of Soldotna and have been involved in our field house project for quite a few years. So super exciting vote results last month. We've got a slideshow here. Some of you may have seen portions of it already that we're reusing, but the information is all relevant, and I'll just spin through it fairly quickly. Feel free to interrupt and ask me any questions at any time. Happy to kind of have an informal presentation, and then yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I don't have any control over this, so maybe I'll just say, do that next slide thing, right? Say, all right, perfect. And if you don't click that special button, everybody's going to see my cheat notes in the bottom of these slides. But I don't have them anyway, so it doesn't matter. They can stay up there. As long as everybody can see this. So, yay, Fieldhouse GO bond, ballot proposition 2022-A. You can see the results up there. 67.13% voted yes. So it passed by a wide margin, pretty indicative of the support of our community, support of Soldotna residents, who are the only eligible voters for the bond issue. But as you'll see on later slides, the project will benefit our entire community and bring folks to Soldotna. Okay, next slide. This is probably a better slide for the very end, but I'll go over it real quickly. You can see a little bit of the back history when City Council passed an ordinance authorizing the general obligation bond to be put in front of the voters at the regular municipal election in October. We spent some time doing community outreach and engagement. We did some mailers. We had a much larger presence on social media and other platforms, promoting and communicating why the city thought that this project was important to our community. And that concluded in the October vote for the bond question. And as noted previously, it passed by a wide margin. Now, what are we doing next? November through June of 2023. Work to secure additional funding through grants, federal funding, state funding, foundation funding, et cetera. So an important distinction on the GO bond authorization, it authorizes a bond issuance up to $15 million. If we were to get $15 million, we're confident we can deliver the project with that revenue source coming from the bond. The remainder of the funding, which is a later slide, it's a $19.5 million project. So there is a little bit of funding gap there, but we know that we can cover that through various different funding sources. But the objective would be to reduce that $15 million GO bond to a number that's even lower. Obviously, it would cost us less in interest earnings, and we'd be able to pay it off quicker. 3 years ago, we had a similar GO bond that went to the voters, and we had also incorporated a 0.5% sales tax for 10 years. So we had the first go around, we had an approach of borrowing this money and aggressively paying it off, and we would utilize a small sunsetting sales tax increase to pay for that. This go around, we said nope. We heard it loud and clear. There was a couple messages from voters. They said they weren't interested in taxes, and they thought we should take care of the facilities that we have existing. So this go around, we said, okay, we're going to take a bit of a bigger bond. The project costs more with the cost escalation and et cetera, but with a longer term. So we're going to work for the next several months. We're going to be working to identify additional funding to try and offset that funding gap that we recognized and knew about. We have some remaining ARPA funds. We are looking into Rasmussen funding to purchase some of the fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. The flooring is a very expensive element of this project. We're working with state and federal delegations for grant opportunities and several other private foundation and private sector funding opportunities to include naming rights, things of that nature. We're just learning about some of that stuff and trying to dial that in. So the soonest we would probably go out to construction would be this spring. We've got July noted on the slide, but some of that is heavily dependent upon the municipal bond bank and their intervals of bond issuance. It wouldn't be just our bond sale. It would be a bunch of different communities that happen at once. We believe right now that there may be one in February is kind of what we're hearing. So we're kind of gearing up for that. But we have 95% drawing specifications, so the project's almost bid ready. You typically hold it right back from the end until you know you're going to bid it. So we just have to get some bid ready plans and specs, as well as kind of finalize the connector piece between the existing sports complex and this building to make sure that we are future-proofing for an eventual conference room expansion, because we want to make sure we don't spend money and then have to undo that in the future. So, and then the last little yellow bubble there, 2025, it's probably about an 18-month construction period of performance. Of course, we've got a very seasonal construction opportunity here in Alaska, so there could be a little bit of a winter shutdown depending on the sequencing and ordering of materials. The steel building is a pre-engineered metal building, and next slide, I think we'll lead us right into that. There you go, 42,000 square foot metal structure. That building will probably have about a year-long lead time before we finalize some of the particulars of the steel package and then authorize its construction. It'll probably be 8 months to a year before they manufacture it and ship it and get to us. So there's a bit of construction sequencing to play out and how it fits with the construction season and everything else, so site work, et cetera. So, but as you see the oblique rendering there, we've got a soccer field. We've got a 3-lane elevated running track. It was designed over many years with a lot of stakeholder input. We had various different sport folks. We had the medical sector represented. We had trade show folks. We had caterers. And the resulting design is really a multifunctional facility that can be used year-round. And obviously, it's going to be amazing in the winter when we don't have this type of indoor facility. So, next slide. The location, you can see the sports complex right next to it, and that little umbilical building between the two. That will change a little bit from this drawing. Like I said, we are double checking and making a few adjustments to ensure that connector piece is compatible with a future expansion of the conference rooms. So we don't want to construct something right now that we just have to undo in X number of years when we're able to expand those conference rooms. Important note on the left, it's kind of powerful, you know, despite the 4,000 and change residents of the city of Soldotna, there are nearly 37,000 residents who live within a 45-minute drive of this location. So we're pretty confident it will be heavily used by folks all over the Central Peninsula. Okay, next slide. Year-round, maximum flexibility. You can see some divider curtains in there for concurrent use, and you see some of the different amenities that we could put in there. Next slide. Some key features, we got some dimensions of the removable of the turf or the area underneath the walking track. There'll be an elevator to the walking track, so the entire building is ADA compliant. In the beginning of the project, we had contemplated not having that elevated track, and that stakeholder group thought it was a very important element to kind of separate those uses. The health and wellness aspect of this facility extends across all age groups, right? So we do know that youth athletics is going to be benefited hugely by this facility, but we also recognize that there's a health and wellness component with seniors and with mobility challenge folks that this will be an important facility in the wintertime too. Separating those uses between below and above was important. It added a significant cost because of the steel that it requires to hold it up. But it was an important aspect. Along with that becomes an elevator because we need to have this fully ADA compliant, and folks need to be able to get to that track of all ages and walk of life. So there'll be an elevator incorporated into the building as well. We've got locker rooms. There's a multi-purpose room. I think it says party rental or party room, but really it could be used for anything. And then a couple more notes about audio and visual setups for meetings and large events. And I think we've got a slide about that later. Last note: access to the existing kitchen in the sports center. That was also an important aspect for the location. Is that the commercial kitchen in the sports complex is right adjacent to this too. So, okay, next slide. This is a quick depiction of a few different elements that could occur in the building. We've got futsal on the left, three full-size basketball courts, a not regulation soccer field, but certainly quite large. And then the next slide we have a pile of wrestling mats, volleyball, and then the sport that apparently has taken over the world, pickleball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 courts. So, and I'll note later that this facility really is going to complement the sports complex right next door. We'll still have that facility right adjacent as well. So, okay, next slide. Health and wellness, I mentioned this, mental and physical. Not only our local sports teams, but the growing senior population is going to have a facility that is usable year-round. I know that we have folks that have to utilize the retail stores for walking. You know, I see folks in Walmart and in Home Depot walking on the concrete floors. You know, this will be a much better venue for folks getting out and getting their exercise in the winter months. Next slide. Broad economic benefits. This is just a stock picture, but it is kind of powerful in the fact that we know that statewide sporting events and other large events, sport rec trade shows and things of that nature, attract a lot of folk to our area. And when they're here, you know, it's challenging to identify specific economic benefits, like, well, what is the resulting revenue due to holding a Brown Bears game? That might be challenging, but intuitively there are people going to the store, staying in the restaurants, you know, they're in our community, spending their money, and you know, the city relies high 90% on sales tax, and so we do know that there will be a pretty significant economic impact by having a facility that doesn't exist on the Kenai Peninsula to this date. So, next slide. Meeting and event space. You know, it's not going to have the finishes of a conference center or convention center, but we will be going into it with the understanding that large events will want to use it, and we will want them to use it as well. So, dare I say, the days are numbered for the Old Cars Mall? Maybe. Next slide. We contracted with the Center for Economic Development with UAA to produce a pro forma, kind of identifying projected expenditures and revenues. Joel and Andrew spent quite a bit of time forecasting, anticipating proposed usage and proposed rates and what kind of revenues the building would generate. We paid the architectural and engineering design team to come up with operating costs to include, you know, utility consumption and things of that nature. So we kind of have an expectation of revenue and expenditures. This report identified conservative, moderate, and optimistic scenarios. What you see on the slide there is the moderate results, and as you can see, it's not expected to pay for it itself, but come pretty darn close, which is incredible considering a municipal building that has all these other enormous and broad benefits to our community and city. So this was a due diligence thing. You know, it's important for us, you know, as we embark on a project of this magnitude and nature, for us to go into it eyes wide open and to know, you know, that we're going to be able to support this facility going forward, and that we're not going to have surprises, you know, on year 4, 5, 9, 15, what have you. So, next slide. Like I mentioned before, this is going to complement the adjacent building. It's going to expand the offerings to our community, and you know, I know for a fact that Joel and Andrew have been, you know, wagging their tails. I know Joel's got all kinds of fun things planned and things to kick around and to bring to you folks to talk about what kind of programming this building should have and what we want to offer. So, next slide. Here are just a few quotes from community support. It's kind of indicative of the broad spectrum of community members who have supported this, and for different reasons. You know, we see parents and coach, care providers. We see local clinical psychologists, just indicative of the broad benefits to our community. Next slide. Like I mentioned before, one of the takeaways from the first go-around, when the bond issue failed by 18 votes, I will note, it was 50 to 51%. A couple of the takeaways were, one of the takeaways was, hey, we need to take care of the buildings you have, and we did just that. We appropriated over $2 million to renovate and upgrade the existing sports complex. You see a couple of the pictures here. We're actually at about 98% complete. The Parks Department has been gracious to move out of their offices and take up shop in a corner of a conference room, and I think they're finally back in their place and enjoying it. We just have some exterior doors and a few other things to work through, but about, you know, over $2 million into renovating it. The kind of the big ticket items we took care of. The popcorn-looking mezzanine ceiling that is ancient and falling, that was completely replaced. We repainted the entirety of the arena bowl, all the walls. We put stainless finishes and redid a lot of the locker rooms that take, the brunt of the abuse. We redid the administrative offices. We worked on some ADA compliance out in the parking lot and some of the site work. And then all of the exterior doors got replaced, which was a huge cost, but necessary, not necessarily a fun and exciting aspect to it, but important. And then finally, we upgraded and changed the front entry and tried to make it in combination with the offices to make it more public friendly. As it was before, if you knew what you were doing at the sports complex, you went there and did it. But if you were showing up to meet at the Parks and Rec department representing the city of Saldana, it was not real obvious where to go and what you did. And the Parks and Rec department is who permits weddings and at Saldana Creek Park and does a broad array of things, not just pickleball and ice hockey. So the intent was to make it more public friendly, and I think we achieved that with some flooring and with some signage and some super bright green paint. I don't know if you guys have been in there yet, but I think that was successful to make it more accommodating to the public. Next slide. Funding strategy, I went over this briefly before, and I hope I'm not going too fast. I'm trying to just zing through these. I know you guys got an agenda tonight, and I will probably not stick around. I've got a basketball game to coach, so I apologize for leaving early. But proposed funding strategy, again, it's a $19.5 million project. You can see the $10 to $15 million GO bond on that pie chart, and then the supplemental funding. Again, to touch on some of the opportunities that we're investigating and working on right now is the foundation funding, private funding, licensing, etc. Next slide. Again, more kind of due diligence, and we're actually in the process of updating this right now with like today's rates, tomorrow's rates. What are they going to, crystal ball, what are they going to do in February when the bond issuance goes through? This is analyzing the different debt service based on a 10-year bond, 20-year bond, what the annual payment would be. We got to make sure that we can make that payment. We got to make sure that the interest we're paying on that bond jives with city finances. And I'll touch on that a bit later here. Next slide. Maybe it's this one right here. So there's a few moving parts. We are confident we can deliver this project because of our different revenue streams. We have sales tax revenue that continues to increase significantly. You can see the figure up there. That's brick and mortar sales in the city of Saldana. We have online sales tax, which is a fairly new revenue source to the city. It is greater than our property tax revenue by far, and continues to grow up. And we expect to continue to see online sales tax increase as more and more vendors sign on and become a part of that. Of course, the growth will decline, but it will continue to increase. Again, healthy fund balance. We've got significant savings and an unassigned balance that's available for discretionary spending. And then finally, our city investments managed by a professional investment firm. About 6-7 years ago, we strategically kind of bucketed our city finances, our fund balances, and have been earning significant revenue on the interest earnings of our nest egg, if you will. That's the rate of return has changed in the last calendar year, obviously, as the financial sector has been in a bit of turmoil, but you can see the average return rate there is fairly significant. So that's something to pay attention to. Next slide. This one's just a kind of a recap of the community-wide benefits, year-round activities, leveling the playing field for competitive teams. A lot of the testimony we heard was about, folks having to go to Anchorage to participate in youth sports. And it was that was coming from folks who participated in those youth sports, but then it was also folks who didn't get to participate in youth sports because they didn't have the opportunity or the means to travel to Anchorage to participate in those youth sports. So, you know, I don't want to focus too strongly on the youth sports aspect, but we recognize that that will be a huge part of this among the other benefits you see up there. Okay, next slide. These last couple slides are just kind of fun. This is actually framed in the offices, I believe, in the Athletic Business Magazine in 1983 when we built the sports complex. Small town thinks big, and I think that's what our voters and city residents have done in our last election is say, you know what, yeah, this is a facility and a cost to the city that is infrequent. We don't see this often, but it's going to be transformative in several areas. So it's a pretty exciting project. And the next couple slides are just some pretty pictures of you know, a lot of the fun things that we've been able to do over the years at Saldana through, you know, great fiscal management from the administration and from the council and mayors that we've had over the past years. You know, the sales tax returns, the prudent management of funding at the city has enabled us to embark on, you know, projects that are sometimes lean towards quality of life aspects of stuff, right? So we're able to pave roads, fix potholes, put a new roof on buildings, you know, those core needs without problem. And we were able to do that. And then other, you know, exciting projects that are equally important, but sometimes, you know, when funding gets scarce are harder. And I don't need to say anything about Saldana Creek Park, you know, or our library that you see images of up there. So, and that really awesome basketball court. All right, next slide. A little buzzword: investing in Saldana's future. So that's you know, again, I try to run through it pretty quick. I know that some of this many of you have seen before, but some of you may not, and I haven't had the opportunity to meet with some of you that are new here. I'm happy to answer any questions about this project or anything, as long as you got me captured about Public Works or projects in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. You've been a fabulous public works director, and you've been doing so much for our community for so many years. So I'm going to open it up to people to speak, and I would like somebody could direct that to me because I can't see any hands.
I think she's.
Hi, my name is Connie Hawker. One of the questions I had on one of the slides when you were looking at cost versus income, it said 2018. Was that the time? So many things have changed since then, but in relation, it would probably be very similar.
Yeah, that's correct. That's something that we had kind of expected to address, and you're right. The report is a little bit older, but you know, both revenues and expenses have likely the delta of the change is somewhat similar. So we don't expect a significant change. The other thing is the funding gap is so small. You know, trust me, nobody wants to hear what the funding gap is for the police station or for the library or for the Saldana Creek Park. You know, we are confident that whatever changes have occurred since 2018 are manageable from a fiscal standpoint in operating the facility. So, yeah, good distinction. It is. That was done prior to the first bond question, the first vote we did 3 years ago.
Hi, this is Denise Sutil. I'm just curious about the parking situation, since it's going to be taking up a good chunk of property there. Will that change?
Yes, the parking will change. It will take up some of that existing parking, and we've done the math. I want to say it was about 100 parking spaces will be eliminated by constructing that. The good news is the city owns the property all around it, including the non-built treed section adjacent to it. And I think, and Andrew and Joel can correct me if I'm wrong, we've worked with the Equestrian Society under that lease agreement to make sure that it's available to us if we need it. When we go through this 100% bid set that we're working on right now, it's going to include a parking analysis, and then also, it will also include a bit of conceptual planning for future too, right? So we're actively seeking grants for a signalization of the approach at K Beach that would connect. We're looking at grants that are attributed to trails and also transportation. We would connect the Satelshi trail system with our trail system, with the Unity Trail. And so a bit of, again, future-proofing, like I mentioned, that little umbilical cord, the connecting building. We want to make sure that what we build now for the field house is compatible with what we're doing in the future. So there'll be a bit of conceptual site planning beyond just the kind of field house. Parking certainly is something that we'll need to address.
Andrew, if nobody else wants to speak, I'll speak.
I would say as chairperson, you have that prerogative.
Okay, well, I didn't hear anybody. I wanted to wait till everybody spoke. But, Kyle, I have 4 quick questions, and you don't need to elaborate, because I know you need to leave. Do you need our help, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, to secure additional funding? Or would you like?
If I heard you correctly, you're asking if the advisory committee can assist with securing additional funding. Is that your question?
Yes.
Perhaps. No stone not turned. We're looking under every rock and looking in every cranny. And if the opportunity arises, the administration will approach Joel and Andrew and see if we can get something from your team here, because, like I said, with a plethora of infrastructure grant opportunities, there may be an obscure one that is related to a Parks and Rec type sector where it would be beneficial to have some legislation out of you folks. I'm not sure, but if that need arises, we will certainly engage you guys, and I appreciate the question.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is, will the outside the building be architecturally pleasant? It's not to just like some of the other buildings and filled up. Some are nice, and I will just say some are questionable. What about the green area with art like that?
Yes.
We didn't catch that, Penny.
Oh, okay, let me do it again with not so close. So, will the outside of the building be architecturally pleasant?
Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. If you're a civil engineer, this pre-engineered metal building is going to be pretty awesome. Good question. We've got that before. Also, that's a good question that we've received in regards to the adjacent building too, right? So it's kind of, the cladding on that building is aging and in need of some attention as well. Yes, we have communicated to the architectural team that the city likes to build things once and build them right. So it is going to be a pre-engineered metal building with insulated metal wall panels. But we do have the opportunity to put penetrations in that through windows, and then also through different coloring and such. So the rendering that you see in the materials, the shape and function is relatively set, but the coloration and depiction, we'll have a basis for design in the bid, but then, through submittals and shop drawings, we'll confirm what it is. So, yeah, it will be as architecturally pleasing as we can make a pre-engineered metal building.
Right, and thank you for that. I totally understand that. pitches. So that's where I was going, and some of the green space as well. And I think I will save my other two questions because I can ask them later. Thank you very much. And if anybody else has questions,
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment. I'd just like to thank you for all your hard work on this. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to really put Soldotna on the map. You know, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be great.
I just wanted
Thank you,
to say
Ms.
thank you very much for coming tonight and filling us in on what's going on. I know this was wanted by the community. Obviously, it was finally reflected in the vote. I have a lot of apartment buildings and I have a lot of seniors, and it is real. The need is real, and you know, they can't get out, and a lot of times even in the summertime it's hard because there's a lot of things going on. So again, it's extremely appreciated. You did an amazing job and can't wait to use it.
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Cornelius. You have been a point of appreciation by all of us in the community. Your hard work and dedication has really paid off, and I think this is a game changer. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
No hanging on the rim.
Okay, so that takes us to item 5, action items.
Okay,
Queen the gun.
I can help with this one. What we're looking to do is set a work session with regarding the park use reservation policies, which is a number of different facets we'll be dealing with in response to community input and presentations and stuff to try to alter perhaps some of the stuff that goes on. We met, Joel and I and the city attorney, as well as Ms. Queen, met the day before yesterday to kind of get a game plan together for this meeting to see where we would be wanting to head with it, what we might have ready before that, and in terms of that, and some of the stuff that is going to right now in the works pending ongoing is the city attorney Brooks Chandler is actually reviewing a city code in entirety, working on some language. One thing that was brought up during some of the presentations was that there's a clause in there that's unenforceable by law from 1975 that predates an amount of case law and those type of things that needs to be reviewed. So when you start looking into some of those, his colleagues will be looking at those as well as seeing where else we need to bring the city code into the new millennium, if you will, as far as language and stuff like that. It's not uncommon for those type of things to hang out there, but a lot of it has, Alaska as a young state, but nonetheless has had a lot of challenges and experience as far as case law that goes in this realm. But they'll be looking at that to look at, and they will be focusing on part of it on the nature of and/or definition of obscene, which as a legislative component can be an interesting one to nail down in terms of from where the courts have viewed that. But nonetheless, there's some portions of the general code that need to be updated. Whether this event happened or not, this is the impetus to make change. And so we're working towards that sense. We're also, some of the stuff that we've looked at for that also is whether or not we have certain days where we don't book events, so that if people have concerns about if an event or a possibility of an event, or they'd like to go to the park when there's no events happening and just have it be a park rather than an event center, maybe that's something to do. We got a similar model at the Sports Center where every Monday we're closed until 3 p.m. to do ice maintenance and catch up from the weekend, depending upon in terms of that stuff. And in terms of that stuff, and in Soldotna Creek Park's case, it might be so that the grass can grow and not get stepped on. It might be so the grass can be watered and for some of that stuff. But also, as an offshoot, then that can be a time when people, aren't crowded from event or even interacting with events and those type of things. So those are kind of some of the brainstorming, as well as what operationally type of things we can do as a community, what we all envision in terms of those things. So the application is obviously one of those things that'll be looked at, and as well as will possibly, most likely, the park reservation policy and use policy. The one for Saltana Creek is fairly onerous, but tries to address some other stuff, but it doesn't necessarily handle this realm. But the question then begs, before we receive the legal advisement and such, as where the best place for such a change is, in whether it's in the city code and or a regulation for a park or a reservation form for the Saltana Creek Park or the conference rooms or the pavilions, in terms of those things. So some of those aspects are being tackled as we go. The moving forward, some of the things, operationally speaking, and where we're at, calendars, those type of things that say, okay, some of the things that folks have voiced has been communication, how we can elevate those type of communication things, how we can get the word out as far as what kind of event is going, how can we alter some of the language in our applications too, so people can be better informed. It's kind of like, when I'm talking with my wife and doing a project, I know what I'm doing. It may seem questionable, but that doesn't mean she does. And I can say it the way I say it, and it's very clear to me, but it may not be clear to someone else. So, and even trying to find ways of that, so that when people go, they're not, they can look at one place and say, okay, I want to go here, I want to go here, maybe I don't want to go there, or this will conflict with what I want to do. So there's a lot of those aspects that as far as steps and motivations to do things beyond even legislative actions. We know that we're, as far as the constitutional rights and all those type of things gets kind of challenging, but maybe that we can stay out of some of those questions just with better communication and or those type of things. So those are some of the things, but the work session on we're trying to, hopefully we've kind of thrown some dates around there for like in the range of December 12th and 13th. Would folks, would the board be able to attend that? If we had, it would be, I'm assuming Brooks will either attend, would be a teleconference or in person. But to get everybody here and sit down with some prepared information from Joel and I, as well as Stephanie, as well as the city attorney, and be able to start digging into some of these things as a work session. Would that, would the 12th and the 13th seemingly work for everybody? Not seeing any objection. I'm looking at this, the work sessions are a little bit different sometimes than meetings, where the work session is the working body, which would be the attorney, the board, and stuff like that, with presence from the community. I'm assuming that we probably would not want to do this during the day, so that if people did want to attend and watch it happen, they would have that opportunity to do that. And that's an assumption on my part. If it's acceptable to the board, you all will be making the decision. But for whatever that's worth, that's a thought that I had, is that, it has been a popular idea. And sometimes, again, people just knowing that we're doing our best and seeing which directions we're kind of heading, and then they can follow up post to that, say, with an email or those type of things, to say, hey, I think you're on point, or I think you're still way out the left field. Both of which is the feedback we need, and both of which is the feedback we want, so that we can move forward. So I guess at this point, Ms. Chair, I would see if there was a motion to schedule one of those two dates for a work session, and then recommend a time or motion to pick a day as well as a time, and then we can get it published and get the materials together to work at that.
Okay, thank you very much. So is there a motion to set a date and time for the work session regarding the Parks and Recreation Soldotna Creek Park Reservation Policy Reviews? Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion that we set a date and time at this time for that work session.
Do you have a recommendation?
Thank you. May I have a second?
I recommend the 12th of December, being a Monday night.
that.
Would we have a time?
Thank you very
associated?
much.
5:30?
So it'll be Monday night, 12th at 5:30. Is that the motion I'm hearing? That's what I hear.
That's correct.
Okay, and I heard the second. Oh, I guess I need a second because there were two additional things. Can I have that second again?
Sure, a second for the 12th at 5:30.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments? Hearing none. If there's no objection, actually, I think we should probably call for a vote on this, if you want to, or if there's no I guess on an action item, we really should call the vote. So could you take roll call, please?
Okay. Scudder,
Here.
Is that a yes or a no?
Hacker,
Yes.
Oberts. And Delker is absent. Via,
Yes.
Dutile,
Yes.
and Vadla.
Yes.
Okay, that's everybody.
We have a work session set for December 12th, 5:30 PM. We didn't specify, but specifically, but the location would be here at this, in the council chambers at City of Soldotna City Hall, 5:30 on the 12th.
Thank you. And that brings us to reports, the Parks and Recreation Director report.
Within the packet, I can reiterate, within the packet, as far as some of the events that are happening, as Kyle alluded, we've got a lot of stuff going on with construction winding down, the events starting, a lot of overlap, a lot of little things. Now is when we find out what, where the little things that are missed moving along, such as the sign on the door that says to operate, pull handle, and there's no handle. And I'm hoping that doesn't end up on the internet as they had one job type of thing, but nonetheless, the handles run back order. So we're working through those things. It's been a great process. Help from Kyle and CO at City Hall, as well as all the staff at Parks and Rec have been very cooperative, and the contractors have been fantastic. So it's been an exciting project that that could have seemed like it took for years, but it hasn't. It seemed like it's happened very quick and went by fast. So that's a good sign. Plus, we got some really brightness with the different stuff. So in terms of kind of a SRC events, as some of you all attended the Alaska Recreation and Park Association conference that we held for the second year running, another fantastic success. Exciting. This one was exciting. One of the theme of it was inclusion, where we, prior to the conference, we had an inclusive playground design seminar work session with professionals from the communities, professionals from around the country as far as playground design for the term inclusive, which means not only socio-cultural and socioeconomic barriers and or limitations or provisions, but also special needs. And tied in with that, we all got to try some stuff on the ice. There's a sport that paraplegics play and persons with special needs play called sledge hockey, where they strap into a sled and they use two sticks to propel themselves around the ice and then play hockey. And it was flabbergastingly amazing. Wow. Because here are these, I mean, it levels the playing field, for lack of a better term. And we'll be presenting some ideas for equipment to purchase that, to accommodate that, where it actually levels some of the special needs. A couple of the gentlemen who attend almost all the Brown Bear games are die-hard hockey fans. They got to go out and play hockey. And despite their limitations, they got to go out and play hockey in the sledge hockey, and it was fantastic. I received an email from one of the gentleman's moms saying what it meant to him. And we also extended into that. There was also sessions on special needs and inclusion on just our basic figure skating program, Learn to Skate, and we'll be having some budget things come forth on those try to get those equipment and start working those things. So, and the staff and everybody's excited in terms of that stuff. Beyond that, we had all the professionals, or most of the professionals from around the state, all come here. They all have field house envy to some degree that we were able to pull off. It was interesting that Joel and I were in Fairbanks 3 years ago when the vote failed, right after the vote failed, and everybody was almost just as bummed as we were from the Parks and Rec, looking at it from a community standpoint of the state. But now we're back on track and moving to those type of things. Brown Bears have returned to the Sports Center for their long homestand for 6 weekends. And they're actually in first place in the league. They dropped to second for one day, and then we're back in first place in the league. So that's pretty exciting. So there's been some fantastic hockey at the building, and nice to have them home. SoHi hockey started last weekend, as did Kenai with the Peninsula Power Play Tournament, where they had 4 teams in a round robin. So we had the 3 Bears games last week, 3 high school games, and it's crazy when that happened, but it's awesome to be that busy, and to have all that many community members going through the building and see those many kids playing. Some of them local folks, even on the Bears, but also to watch the kids that you've seen skate from Mini-Mite all the way up through now playing for SoHi. And there's names on those jerseys that are the same names as when I got hired to run the Sports Center in 1993. So some of them have jumped teams. Dad played for Kenai, and now their son's playing for SoHi, but nonetheless, there's the same name. So it's the next generation of those young folks who were able to either stay in the community as they grew up in, or leave and come back. So that's pretty exciting when you start seeing the next generation names that came, that shows the families that are here. Also, we just got finished up with the pie auction. The Soldotna Chamber had their pie auction. That was the first main or big event other than the conference in the conference rooms. So that was a success. This last weekend and this weekend, we do have the Triumvirate Theater presenting their lame ducks and dark horses things, and they're in heaven because they said they got more room to change their costumes than they've ever had before. Plus, they didn't have to take down anything in between, so they've been in there all week, and they'll have another performance tomorrow night and Saturday night, and we'll finish up those things. Events coming up, and then just in November, December, obviously we got to attach the Brown Bears and the SoHi schedule, so you can see those games as far as home games where they'll be. So we're fairly busy there, just a lot. And then we started in the conference rooms. Actually, this weekend we have a big fat tournament. I'm thinking they start on Thursday and play all the way into Sunday afternoon. So we have 4 full days of hockey with tournaments at the youth level of a number of different ages, probably 18, 20 teams in for that one. We'll be participating in terms of that. So that's exciting. November 11th, Caribou Hills Cabin Hoppers preseason event. They're almost late because we got so much snow already, but moving forward. Holiday Bazaar, that's an SRC event. We got a turkey trot, wall of guns, some chamber lunches, Marathon Corporation Christmas dinners, Christmas in the park. We'll be at Soldotna Creek Park, a little bit off-site there, but we'll be putting a Christmas tree in there pretty soon as everything freezes up. And I'm going there. December 10th, Salteshi Movie Night, and some more chamber lunches, and then the Soldotna Regional Sports Complex Christmas show on December 17th. So got a few things happening, and then and moving forward and doing the best we can. I was speaking with CO as the project manager for the remodel, and one of the things he said when he was in yesterday, he goes, being over here as much as I've been this summer, and he goes, the summer was one thing, he said, but the last couple months, he goes, even at a reduced schedule offering, he said, this place is busy at all times, and it is, and that's kind of a game, one big 365 days of whack-a-mole, 14 hours a day from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Fiona?
I have a question for you. When you're talking about the inclusive possibilities, I'm wondering what kind of activities and equipment has the field house planned for these special needs folks?
Well, we just broke into the ice idea, and then that'll be part of the. I mean, that's a big push within the industry, and developments are happening all forward. So those will be factored in, some of the FF&E and those type of things. One of the factors is, as was Kyle alluded, is that, you know, the installation of the elevator, that we'll be able to get to the top floor instead of the slow thing that Sports Center's kind of retrofit. There'll be an elevator to go in and through there. One of the gentlemen that was brought up for the conference on inclusivity is a gentleman who has invented like 30 or 40 different pieces of equipment, including that one swing we had, that Envision swing that's in Soldotna Creek Park, where the mom and or can sit face to face with the baby and swing. The gentleman who invented that. So we've got those contacts working out in there with the inclusive play, but also as we go inside to be able to address those things or do the best job we can at the time. You got some of those connections that happen. And I have to admit, I remember when I first saw that particular swing, and it was just like, wow. I shook his hand. I said, that was genius. He goes, yeah, it took me 8 years to get a company to build it. And I was just, oh, okay, well, you did it. So, but in terms of those things, so the inclusiveness, especially on the special needs side, the culture in the industry is even looking at it differently. When we put some of the playgrounds in, we have what's called stations, but they've taken that a long step further in terms of beyond just having some various things. And there's more challenging things for some of the special needs that are being developed now. There's also a trend that's happening in the playground world where the challenge level of what, say, we had when we were kids, where you fell, it's not a direction to head back to where the kids are falling on asphalt and stuff or out of the back of the truck like we did. But it is, you're seeing a trend in some of the play aspects where it's more challenging. And that counts for not only the URI, but also the special needs. So even some of those, they're building things that allow them to challenge themselves more as well. So you'll see some different things that are subtle in terms of that stuff. For instance, 10 years ago, there's no way in heck they would have built that, the apparatus we just bought and put into Riverview with the big net and the climbing apparatus, because remember, we took the dome out of Farnsworth years ago because kids were falling on it. So some of those technologies, but also the trend is to going back that direction, which is exciting, and be able to meet with the people. Some of the people who actually designed this stuff was pretty groovy, as well as professionals from around the state. So those are on the list as far as addressing those type of things, and making sure as best we can. You know, even I've had conversations with folks where even I'm of the mindset that some of the ADA accessible ground covers aren't necessarily so, because those standards were established before they had small wheelchairs, before they had some of the technological stuff that are happening now. It doesn't necessarily work for that stuff, even though, because those didn't evolve. The small wheelchairs weren't necessarily available years ago. So even those standards are being updated in terms of things. Not everybody has a track vehicle type chair to be able to cross some of those. And when ultimately you'll see the recommendations from administration come when we redo Soldotna Creek Park in 3-4 years to go to a poured-in flat surface versus even the particulate with the rubber fiber and stuff. So those changes are getting to Alaska, and that conference. And I know Penny's told me thank you for all the work, but I'll be honest, I didn't do squat. This gentleman here in the red shirt did it. And this lady to my left did it in terms of the conference and being able to put all those people in the same room in terms of that stuff. So I just wallow in once in a while and mess things up. But next, I want to touch on base. We got the numbers. We had to wait for some stuff to happen. We got the numbers from our campground season in terms of those things. We were down 6% from last year, but last year was a record-setting year. The last year's revenues and everything were the highest they've ever been at $498,568. It was just higher. It was a fantastic red year last year, and the red year lasted all the way into the third week of August, so people kept coming down, and they kept coming down. But in terms of those things, so we're sitting at this year at $468,966, which is still the second highest we've ever had, with the next highest being back to 2017. In terms of that stuff. But it was a good summer. Overall, not too many problems, just the normal stuff of not enough time to do everything you need to do. but for the most part, very few calls, very few complaints. The majority of the complaints we dealt with this summer weren't necessarily for staff issues or performance issues, but people not playing nicely together. And so those were the majority of the interactions we had, but for the most part, it was a good summer. Swiftwater, overall, the campgrounds are the highest. Swiftwater came in at 107, historically speaking, and then Centennial was at 339 for overall revenues, whereas 355 last year. So as far as dollar figures, we were down $30,000 from last year, which wasn't unexpected. We did have we are having a little bit better shoulder seasons than we used to, spreading out a little bit. But also this summer, the red season was a shorty. So in terms of those things, the revenues at Rotary weren't anything to write home about totally, comparatively speaking, over the years. But what we're finding is more people buying the day use passes. We'll find more day use passes over there, and in terms of that stuff. So we were still just as popular as ever in most ways, just in different payment methods and those type of things. So we did complete the beetle kill, first phase of the major beetle kill. We also have another $200,000 coming that will be contracted over the winter to try to finish up some of those pieces. The project that's coming up right now will spread outside the campgrounds. There'll be an amount of work done in the campgrounds, but with this portion, there will be areas that will be need to be addressed outside the city, or not outside the city, but outside the campgrounds, where we have lots of dead trees and need to deal with them for various reasons. In terms of that side, in terms of sites, I don't think after all the work we didn't have a tree fall in a site this summer, did we, Joel? We had 2 drop over the trail, and that was it. So the trees, as identified by Mitch Michaud, the consultant, and then what we were able to take out with the contractors, made a difference in terms of the safety. No matter what we do, we'll always have a little bit of fire exposure at some level, so that is going to still exist for a while, depending upon where it is. But for the most part, the way it was contracted and the work Kyle and CO and them did, the way they were able to do it, it was very effective and got a lot of the work done that was just beyond us in terms of those things. In terms of those right now, we're still in the process of pulling stairs. We can't. We're staff short. We have listings out. We've been trying to hire some positions for the last 5 months and struggling to get those. We're out right now for the maintenance position to rehire. A little bit short. We've been borrowing some bodies from Scotty. We had it set to pull all the stairs last week, and then Mother Nature dumped on us. And then it did again this week. But we're slugging away, running into some unique situations where water is higher than we expected, yet there's still ice in some. We pulled one set of stairs out. They had probably 300 pounds of ice stuck to the bottom, and we just had to horse up, and the crew's been knocking that out really well. And then handling the snow removal and in between things and everything else. We've got the big hockey tournament tomorrow, and just the one Brown Bear games, but seems like, it is what it is, end of summer, and trying to catch up and move in and out of the office and those type of things, but we are slugging away. So visitor center ones are the ones the guys are trying to draw straws to see who has to deal with those, because they are mucked in and silted in and frozen in, and we broke our lifting davit on them the other day, so we had to refabricate that. But moving forth, the staff are just getting stuff done and having a ball. It's winter, time to change gears, get ready for the Christmas event in the park, and then have fun at hockey. So moving forward, as I said, we got the work session on the 12th to 13th. We'll have some information ready for y'all to work with, some to chew on, and hopefully be in a direction that helps us better serve everybody, and go from there. But having the city attorney there will definitely help to keep us out of the weeds, or show what we can and can't do, or at least give us advice of what we can and can't do, and then move forward. And it's never 2 days are the same. No 2 days are the same. So if you get a chance, stop in the sports center and check out our ultimate green window area for the offices. When you first look at it, it's like, wow, that's like green. But then it grows on you. It really does. But we are seeing a different behavior in the customers in that it's obvious where to go. It's not walk in and kind of look around and try to find someone. If you need skates and skate rental, the skates are in the office now, and there's a big light-up sign that says skate, so skates rentals. And then the other side is Parks and Rec, but also gives us 2 service windows when we have heavy events. In terms of that, we just finished our skate night, or fright night for Halloween on the 28th, I believe it was, and there was about 400 people at that. So get 400 people trying to rent and pay for skates, it's mayhem with 5 windows or 8 windows, but we survive, and then we go forward. So if you get a chance, stop in and take a look. The new ceiling above the mezzanine is fantastic, but at the same token, some of the folks that have looked up and, well, it's not the old barn, a little bit nostalgic and everything, but that lasts about 0.2 seconds before the reality goes, yeah, but this one doesn't look like crud. So we got some happy stuff going on, and life is good. If you have any questions or you want to stop in, ask me or Joel, and between the two of us, and if Joel or I don't know, I got $5 that says Shelby probably does. So. Any questions for me? Any information, curiosities? Okay, I'll hand the talking time back to you, Ms. Vadla.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for a wonderful report, Andrew. That was wonderful. So I'll do a quick report. I had a longer one. I'll share it later. But I would like to thank you in the beginning, Joel Todd, and the lady in the red shirt. I'm assuming, is that Shelby or is that somebody else?
Joel's in the red shirt.
Oh, Joel's in the red shirt. Okay. All right. So, and Andrew, you are an integral part of that as well. So I'm going to thank you, too. I was pleased to attend the Inclusive Playground Workshop at the Alaska Recreation Park Association conference, presented a day early, and Connie Hawker and Denise Utah went with me, too. I still had the best design, you guys. Don't know what I'm talking about. But that was wonderful. It was a full day where we had 3 people. One person was an inclusive design presenter, and I'm not going to use names here, people who were there, but the landscape architecture company was there, and a co-founder for Parks for All. It was a really inclusive day, and the workshop was very, very, very informative. And we got to design in teams the Soldotna Creek Park, and it was magical. The amount of energy and the ideas that came out of that from all groups, it was pretty amazing. So that was a fun first day. And then the rest of the conference, and I attended the rest of the conference as well, and you can only go, I wanted to see all the presentations. I thought our last year conference was good, and it was exceptional. This was better, greater. It was just wonderful. Starting out with Inclusive Playground and working all the way through some issues that we really seem to have to deal with. And so I went to the Know Your Biases, and that was the title of it. And they talked about how they impact us, how we can make concerned decisions about information, and how we can look at what our biases do sometime to halt us from doing things regarding outdoor and indoor recreation. And so that was very informative, and I'll just give a couple of one-liners. I went to see Motivation to Move by Tom Norquist and the benefits of play, and he talked about the consequences of play, and I never thought about it from that, and the approaches to intergenerational play and multi-generational play. I think about that a lot because I still like slides. And how do we make it fun for everybody? Some of the other speakers who were there were a professor from UAA who talked about outdoor programming and how we reconnect, or we can connect with the outdoors in a variety of ways, and how we can use our senses to take on experiences and how these are really restorative benefits, not just for kids, but for adults as well. And some of the restorative benefits of what nature does to us. And at first I thought, this is kind of different, but I really understood the exceptional examples he provided. So to make us learn how to design small programs for the outside, connect these partnerships with schools and maybe people who are in nursing homes. I mean, there was a variety of information that was delivered. I also attended a Parks and Advisory Board, and that was really interesting. I didn't know where that was going to go or what it was going to be about. We talked about ethics and governance and how we can share ideas with other parks advisory boards, and how we can actually really connect in more ways than just having our own board that we talk to. So there was so much information that was given to us. And the banquet was very nice. Lots of people went. They raised money for scholarships. And I only talked about a small portion of the events that I believe Joel set up with his partner in his office, and I'm sure that Andrew added to those as well. It was really impressive. People left, and it was like a joyous family reunion of even new people that I hadn't met before. So there was so much there that I think we should have a follow-up on some of the information. So, and I will stop it there because we've already been there for an hour and a half. And I do believe that Mr. Todd is the president of the Alaska recreational parks. I believe that correct, Mr. Todd. I'm going to put you on the.
Actually, I'm sorry, I
Wait,
forgot. Yes,
no.
that is true. He is the new president.
That is. He is the new president of the Alaska Recreation and Park Association. So he's seen as a leader. I think our community is seen as a leader. I think our Parks and Recreation has been seen as a leader for a long time. So thank you both to you and Joel and everybody who organizes that and does all the work. And that is the end of my report. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not. I did want to also mention that and a lot of people did, I got very involved in the field house and called people and stood on the highway with a whole bunch of great people, not on the highway, on the sidewalk, holding signs, and there were kids, and I'm so proud of what all of you did to make this happen. So that is my report, and I guess I'll give my thank yous at the very end. So that would turn us over to the city manager report, please. Thank you very much. This is item B under reports, C under reports.
We don't have any city manager in attendance. We do have Dan Nelson from the council under an 8, but we do have some folks here. Were you all interested in speaking for presentation? That are here to make public comments? And
thank you. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open that up. This is the time for public comments. The public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. 20 minutes aggregate. Please provide your first name, last name, and address for the record. I will remind you to please be courteous and respectful during your comments. For those of you in the audience, I request you refrain from applauding, cheering, whistling, clapping, or boisterous behavior during the public comments. Please be respectful of the views of the speaker, even if you don't agree with them. Please observe proper decorum and not engage in personal attacks or disruptive behavior. The board will respectfully listen to your comments. We are not here tonight to engage in debate, but to listen to your comments and concerns so that we can look at them. Again, they're limited to 3 minutes, 20 minutes aggregate. Each speaker will please state their first name, last name, and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. And please stop speaking at the sound of the chime. Thank you very much. If the first member would love to come up.
I don't know this process too well, and really I've been fighting for an ordinance, not really this resolution, but I'll fight on any level that I can because my kids are involved and the moral fiber of our community. And I kind of get tired of saying it. There is a very big misconception when people bring
I
up
didn't hear your name.
Isaac. My name is Isaac from Soldotna. Anyway, the whole drag thing that happened in the park is not what people have been fighting against. It is what somehow it's convoluted and people believe that the LGBTQ community is under attack and all of that. And I can tell you right now it is not. Without going too much into my history, but I've got over 5,000 combat missions for their right to go and do what they do, all right? I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is obscenities in public. What happened there, if you did not see it, and I don't even know if you guys have pull from being on this board to change this resolution, the resolution, it does not affect someone's First Amendment. It does not discriminate when you say you need to dress appropriately and define what that is. That does not go after the LGBTQ community. It doesn't go after me as a Christian. It doesn't go after another person who's a Christian or a Muslim or anybody. It's a blanket statement. So when people keep saying, oh, there's First Amendment stuff and it's touchy, no, it's really not. I would encourage you to look and see what happened at the park, and people say it was based off of a 3-second video. But I was told a story one time, and if I baked a batch of cookies, nice big batch of, let's say 30 cookies, and I just put one piece of poop in there, all you're thinking about is that. You don't want to eat those cookies, right? So I'm not saying the whole event was horrible. I am saying that there is a piece of that got brought to attention. I would like to see the park being a place I can bring my kids and my family. I have an 8-year-old. Today, my 5-year-old just turned 6. So we're going to his birthday party after that. And then we also have a 4-year-old, and we love taking our kids to the park. The park looks great. I know there's lots of important things out there, but I think that the safety of our children, or the moral fiber, if you will, should be of a priority, although I've been told by some council members that they don't prioritize. I disagree. I think if I came in here wearing a sock to those meetings, I bet you very quickly something would be done about it. I would encourage you also to look up the Miller test. And I just want to read one blurb of it from you, and that is what the Supreme Court used to go over with that. But it does say whether the average person applying contemporary community standards would find that work as a whole appeals to and this word is a weird one, but a prurient interest, and that just means a lustful interest. So I would hope you just take that into consideration. It is not about taking the rights from an organization. It is about keeping it safe and appropriate for the whole community as a whole, as we see it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Jessie, and I live at 38555 Syniad Court.
Can you give us your last name, please?
Yes, Jessie Colasar. I'm not as good of a speaker as my husband, so I have to write down my thoughts. But thank you for taking the time to review the park policy. I'm glad that you've set a date to actually discuss it. I'm here because we've been entrenched in this debate since June over protecting kids from being exposed to sexually explicit content in a public forum. If 10 years ago someone would have forecasted this type of explicit event taking place in a park in front of kids, people would have said that you were absolutely crazy. That would never be allowed to happen. But it did happen, and now it's being downplayed as a 5-second video that went viral. We know that that's not the entirety of what took place. Besides the man who exposed his backside with a thong on, there are many other videos of children literally clinging to grown men dressed as erotic women, handing dollar bills to them as if the Soldotna Creek Park is a drag queen strip club for kids. We also have to ask, what bathroom are these men using? Do you think I want to send my 8-year-old daughter into a public park bathroom with a grown man? Absolutely not. We must ask ourselves, is this what progress looks like? Is progress degrading children down to making them believe that what defines them is their sexuality? Are we the people so blinded by allowing this type of sexually explicit content to be heralded as expression, put on a pedestal for display, and we the people should bow before it as if it's some kind of god, give it a pardon because it falls under a magical umbrella of LGBTQ expression? Parents should pay no attention to the nature of the drag show or what they're trying to accomplish. It's art, they say. It's freedom of expression. But it's time to call it what it is. It's disgusting, sexually explicit adult fetishes that are being played out in front of kids, preying on the hearts and minds of young people. It's about being more concerned about someone's feelings than the safety of our kids. Why are the school zone signs outside of our schools forcing people to drive 25 miles per hour for the protection of our children? Why are children required to be put in a car seat until they reach a certain age for the protection of children? Why do teachers and school administration go through active shooter drills and teach emergency procedures to their staff to protect children? So why are we not protecting our children when it comes to sexualizing them? The agenda literally has all the odds stacked against our kids. If you look at the statistics, you won't find one single statistic that praises the effects of forcing sexuality on kids. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The LGBTQ won't tell you that. They'll tell you that if you don't accept it, conform your ways and thinking, then we the parents are harming our kids. That's how they operate. It's flip the script. These events are getting national attention. Kids are becoming drag queens, dancing on a stage with adults throwing money at them. We have school boards pushing for gay pornography in classroom textbooks, library books, drag queen story hours in public libraries. Now in public schools, bars opening their doors for family-friendly drag queen night. And somehow this falls under the blanket of inclusion and expression. This is far more going on with this. We have to ask ourselves, why are they so interested in exposing themselves to our children? I believe the hand that rocks the cradle is a hand that rules the world. And I'm a mother, and I'm here to protect my kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Ugarte, 116 West Redoubt. I just want to say thank you for you guys actually showing that you guys care. You know, we've been here for 5 months, and all we've been told is why are we still here and why are we complaining about this? You know, we have a lot of people that like coming to our town. I work at McDonald's, and this summer I saw many people from all over the world. And what people like coming up here is because they're tired of what's going on in the lower 48. They like coming up here because they can go and see families playing in parks. They can see something good, what they don't have. We're spending a lot of money on this building. With this change that this city council has going, it's gonna be a waste. No one's gonna wanna come down here. We have the emails, which the city made us buy, and a lot of people are saying that they're telling their families that not to come back up here. Word gets around, and we're trying to do something nice. You know, we're protecting our kids. That's all we want. So I thank you for you guys actually doing something. It'd be nice if city council had the same decency as you guys do to actually say, you know what, we're gonna make a work council and we're gonna work on this. You know, thank you for doing it. I can actually say, I'm proud to say that city, that the Parks and Recs is actually trying to do something. You know, the Saldana City Council, a bunch of liars and thieves and snakes.
Excuse me?
My opinion, I'm making a comment, ma'am. I'm making a comment. I'm not insulting anybody. I'm making a comment. My opinion, ma'am. Respect that. By the way they treat us, we're their bosses. And they tell us that they can do whatever they want. No, that doesn't happen. So we're sick and tired of it. We are. We're sick and tired of being blown away and not even being paid attention to. So once again, I'm gonna go and say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Ms. Duddle, Ms. Hawker, Ms. Halderson, Mr. Carmichael. Well, she's not here. Ms. Villa, Scooter, Robertson. I don't know the lady who's on the phone, on the camera, but thank you for actually caring about it. And I pray that City Council takes something from you guys and starts to do something also and say, we're gonna set a date and do this. Thank you all for everything that you guys do for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Penny, it looks like that's the end of the folks, or not the end, but we have no one else desiring to do public comment.
Okay, so thank you very much to the people who took time tonight to come and present your comments to the advisory committee. I really appreciate it. So I don't believe we have a ex officio council member Nelson here tonight. Is there anybody in his place to make comments?
Councilman Nelson is here.
Oh, he is. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Councilman Nelson, we appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much. Just a brief report tonight. I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time, but since we last met, the council did pass a resolution that was or ordinance that was fairly comprehensive in the city regarding accessory dwelling units. And I point this out because one of the objectives of that was to increase the mix and availability of different types of housing within the city of Soldotna, which was, like many of our parks department and other things, part of the comprehensive plan and kind of a long-term goal that's been identified in the city. So I might have mentioned that. I think it was introduced before our last meeting, but it was passed. Obviously, I had an election talking about our ballot measure tonight. Just for information, the two council member seats were up. Both of the incumbents retained their seats. So Mr. Carey and Vice Mayor Parker are still on the council and were re-sworn in at our last meeting. And Vice Mayor Parker was again confirmed as the vice mayor. She'll continue to hold that position. I'll also make a note here that we've been searching for a city clerk for some time. We approved a contract for a new city clerk, Ms. Johnny Blankenship, who has been with the borough for many years, very skilled clerk, will be joining the city of Soldotna on December 1st. So very, very happy to have her expertise and amazing amount of experience that she has. I will mention on our last meeting, the council voted unanimously to waive the facility fees for the sports center for the bid, hopefully I'm saying this right, for the bid for SoHi to host the next 2 years of the hockey tournament. And that was an interesting conversation. Obviously, we talked, just as Mr. Cornelis talked tonight, about the economic benefit of when we bring these big tournaments and people are eating in restaurants and staying in hotels and doing those things, and the positive effect that has on sales tax and other things. But it was also interesting, and I don't know if it was Andrew that mentioned that somewhere in conversation it came up that maybe Mr. Carey did. I'm trying to think back that people that have to go out of Soldotna and the expense for youth teams and parents to schlep up to Anchorage or schlep up to the Valley, and obviously a lot of expense there that also saves our local residents by having that. So hopefully that bid will be successful, but that was done at the last meeting. And that's about it. I'm certain that some city council members may be at your December 12th work session, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much. That's the end of my report.
Thank you very much, Council Member Nelson. Are there any questions for Councilman Nelson? Seeing none, that'll take us to board member comments.
Hi, I just wanted to thank Mayor Whitney and the Soldotna City Council for accepting my nomination and approving me to be a member of this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I take it from here? Is there other people? For maybe have Ms. Viego next?
Yeah, but
Ms. Vada,
yeah,
is that
if you
okay?
just do that, it would be easier. You
Okay.
bet. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Vida.
I don't have much to say. I'm just thankful to be a part of this board. Joel and Andrew, you guys do such an amazing job. It blows my mind every time I come to these meetings. It blows my mind, and I'm over the moon excited about the field house. I can't. I'm just excited. That's it. Thanks.
Ms. Dutile.
Sure, I'm also very glad that the field house passed this time because I think it will be a great addition. And also for you folks that did public comments, we will be listening. Just want you to know that. Thank you.
Ms. Hawker.
Welcome to the board. I feel it a privilege to be on this board myself. So Soldotna is my home, has been for 40 years. So the public comments, again, we appreciate you guys. I know you've been through a lot. When you go through a lot, there's a lot of families that you reflect when you comment. There's a lot of little ones out there and young parents trying to just do the best they can. And we want Soldotna to be welcoming and our home, and we're all proud of it and want to keep it that way. So you have been heard, and I'm excited about the meeting we've set, and that's, you be proud of yourselves because you've had that happen. You've made that happen. And as far as, just what, I can't say it enough, what Joel and Andrew and the team do about providing information for us and keeping us in our lane, but allowing us to bring, each one of us bring different things to the table. And we appreciate that, and we just want to acknowledge that tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Scudder on the line.
Thank you. I think it's great that we've set a work session meeting, and I'm looking forward to that meeting, and also that the field house has been approved, and I'm excited to see that progress. Thank you.
Back to you, Penny.
Yeah, I would just like to go ahead and welcome Johnny Blankenship. She'll be an excellent addition. I'd also like to do a shout out, since I'm not there, Leona Oberts, welcome. I believe I welcomed everybody else at the last meeting. Rebecca Scudder, it'll be nice to see you at our next meeting as well. So I wanted to mention that first, and I'd like to thank all the community members who came out tonight and who've come out in the past. I have always felt that all voices are important. All philosophies need to be looked at. All practices need to be looked at as well. And I think that it's important to look at all the needs of the community. We don't represent one person. We represent all people. And so we need to look at something and come to some type of a meaningful compromise so that we're inclusive and we are equitable and we're kind. And I think that our parks and our trails and all the things that the community has set up, our field house, all those areas that we have developed over the years bring people to our community, and people enjoy it, and they like the trails. They love the Wednesday market, the things that we're doing in our schools, the plays and so forth. So I really think it's important for us to have this meeting in December. I am happy that we're doing it. I know that as a parent, all parents have concerns. All parents have needs and wants for their children when they're small and when they grow up as well, and their grandchildren. So I also would like to mention that I'm really happy about all the things that happened with the field house, all the people who waved signs and made thank yous and called people. I'm really special thank you to Kyle Cornelius, the Public Works Director, and Stephanie Queen and the whole City Hall team, and for what you did to make sure that that went through and to help people understand the importance of maintaining a building and making it bigger so we can offer more opportunities to old people, young people, people who are in college and school. A special thank you to Joel Todd and Andrew Carmichael. I already said that earlier, for an amazing event. And I wanted to also, and for the work that you did on the field house, you went to those meetings. And I'd like to do a special shout out to Jeff DeLifka and the community of Soldotna for your vote and your support. This is life-changing in my mind, this field house. And I think that's it. I probably had one other thing, but I think that's enough to say in one night. So I hope you heard that. And that, is there anybody else that's online? No, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that brings us to item 5, the next and it's adjournment. The next regular meeting of the Soldotna Parks and Rec Advisory Board will be held on January 5th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. in the City Council Chamber on 177 North Birch Street, Soldotna, Alaska. And then for the board, remember that we'll be meeting on the 12th. I just closed my calendar.
Correct.
Yeah, at 5:30 at City Hall as well for a meeting to discuss going forward with developing some standards for the park. So, and I believe that's our action item. So we'll be setting a work session for Parks and Rec, Soldotna Creek Reservation and Policy Review. So that's what we'll be going over. So I guess somebody can take the moment to close it out. I don't have a watch right in front of me. It is
7:09.
Yep, 7:09. We are adjourned at 7:09. Thank you very much, and be safe out there.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.